Good afternoon, everybody. It is June 22nd today. Apparently, it's the first day of summer or second day of summer, whatever it is. Either way, all I know is that days are starting to get shorter. Christmas is coming, and that's not very awesome to think about. But anyways, Mike, are you wearing the same stinking colored shirt? Yeah, I know. We're in like 3 or 4 different locations like all the time. And apparently I need to try and congregate all my work clothes and separate them out through all these different locations. It's a problem. Anyways, Ashton's been so awesome. I have like 2 shirts down here currently at the South Farm. And she just kind of keeps rotating them. It's a blue and a brown one, blue and a brown one, blue and a brown one. She keeps washing these things for me. So thank you, hon. I appreciate that. Anyways, we're doing a crop update down here. As you know, the South Farm was actually quite wet during the seeding application. May was April, May, mostly May was pretty dang wet. We had quite a few rains come through. There was lots of stucks down here. And as you know, the North Farm, because I'm currently at the South Farm, the North Farm was actually quite dry seeding. Didn't have any rain delays. Had some fog there, but had a couple stucks up there, but mostly because it was, I got too close to a slough. Well, now it is June 22nd, a month later, and we're dry again at the South Farm. We're dry. It is the last 3 to 4 days haven't been very hot. It's only been like 23, 25, maybe the odd 27. It's been a bit breezy, which probably hasn't helped, but the crops are now have peaked and are going backwards very quickly. So this is wheat. This is actually one of the very first fields seeded to wheat. As you can tell, it's in the shop blade. It is pushing ahead right here. See the beards of that wheat? It's just coming out. Oh, sorry, right there. That wheat head is actually right here in the boot. It's literally just pushing out right now. There's probably some places that it actually has pushed out. And it's a little too early. Shouldn't be doing that yet. But anyways, it is what it is. And it doesn't look too bad. You guys can't really tell, but it's looking pretty blue right now, which is not a good sign. Some of these leaves down here are burning off, and this is the best looking stuff. You see how there's a line right here? Over there, it's a little thicker. You see how it right here, the line actually goes all the way across. Well, it's heat waving, okay? It's heat waving, and it's gonna get really dang noticeable probably in the next week or 2 if we don't get some rain. Like we're losing yield, unfortunately, by the day already. So anyway, this is the thin area over here, and it's just simply running out of moisture. You can see that actually has moisture. That's what the crop should still be looking like, but this here is getting thin on us. This looks droughish already, doesn't it? It's giving us flashbacks. Not a good thing. These bottom leaves are burning out. It's pushing out very fast. It's trying to survive. Like, this is natural. It's trying to set seed before it dies. It's pushing out fast, and it's going to take whatever moisture it can find to push it ahead and try and fill it. We thought that our drought was over. I'm not saying that we're going back, but my PTSD from the last 2 devastating years of drought is starting to re-trigger itself. And it's not looking awesome. It just isn't. I looked at the 2-week range forecast, and really they have no idea, right? They probably couldn't accurately predict the weather 3 days from now. But now look at this. Well, Mike, how does this look so good and this doesn't? Here's the line. Well, it's heat waving. This is a bit of a side hill right here. You can see it kind of goes out over here. You can just nicely start to see it. This is a bit of a lower spot right here. There's still some moisture. This is how it should look, guys. It should not be any heads yet. It should just be like these big fat leaves. This is what you want to see. This is yield. This is no yield. This is a little wee head trying to push out. That's not good. So stay tuned for updates, I guess. Well, Mike, I thought you said that you had a bunch of moisture down here. Surely, you get a couple inches. That's, how much rain do you need? Lots. You got to remember that it hasn't rained in the last 2 years. And we could probably take 20 inches of rain to try and bring up our subsoil moisture. You got to remember last year at the North Farm, we took 15 inches of rain just during seeding. Now they get a lot more rain up there. But we haven't had any rain down here. We need rain. So we need to we were literally just living off that rain that came during May. Well, it hasn't really rained since. And a couple tenths here or there, but wind and heat sucks that right out. So, and of course the crop was really lush in May too, which has actually made things worse, right? That's the worst case scenario, is your crop gets really lush like this, right? We never had this last year. Heck, I don't even know if we had this last year. But we haven't had this in a while, so because we had those May rains, right? So the crop is producing good, it's lush, it's just great big fat leaves on here. Like, this is awesome, but it's drawing a mountain of moisture out of the ground. So it's literally just sucking it all up. So unless you can keep getting rain put back on top to keep this foliage alive, and we're not getting it. So this is actually going to turn into this. And it's doing it, this is 3 days, seriously. Give this stuff a week. If we don't get some rain, we'll come back. But anyways, I'm going to go to some a little further advanced crop, and we'll take a look at that. You'll see how it's really noticeable how it's heat waving. I shown you this field because this was actually one of the best fields. It looked the best, but let's go take a look at some other stuff. And over here we got some more wheat. Again, right along the road, looks okay. You're looking into the sun, so you can't see too good here, but let's just zoom up. See that hill? It's turning yellow. Well, let's go take a look at that. This is it. It's just the leaves burning off, and all of a sudden it just gets super thin. Yeah. So yeah, there you have it. So it should be nice and lush. It's trying to push ahead, which is a little bit too soon, obviously. And you can see it out in the field. See down there in the bottom where it's still lush? It's doing, oh, hold on here. It's doing this, it's heat waving, right? It's not a good sign. So there you have it. Can't see too good going into the sun, I know. But it is what it is, guys. It is what it is. But on the other side of things, let's look at some chickpeas. See how the grass is actually turning brown? Crunchy. Fire hazard. So right now we are looking for Astachyta in these chickpeas. We've already sprayed them one time. Oh, we got a flower. Just starting to flower. So I know what you guys are thinking, like, Mike, how do chickpeas handle dry conditions? Because maybe you've heard that, chickpeas like it, like it a little bit drier. A lot of rain causes Astachyta issues, and to be honest, you'll get Astachyta whether you are in a drought or whether you get a monsoon. They're just very prone to Astachyta, which is it's a fungus, and it's a chickpea killer. So we are right off the ditch here, and I just like to check kind of randomly all over the place, but this happens to be the first spot that we looked at. So these are large kabuli chickpeas, if you're wondering. And right here, let's notice that we got some grasshopper damage. Why? Because the leaves are gone. It should look like this one, like that, but clearly, and this guy's got some leaves here. Oh, this guy's got leaves, just really narrow, which isn't a good sign. It isn't a good sign either. Typically, you got some chemical damage if you get some narrowing leaves like that. But these ones have been eaten off. And above it as well. And over here, this plant also this guy right here. So we have been spraying our first rounds on the chickpeas. That typically the grasshoppers are the worst in the ditch, as shown in the previous videos, and then they work their way in. But that's not always the case. If you've happened to have some green sloughs out there last year, maybe you had some kochia patches, you know, because kochia loves drought. That's about the only thing that will grow in a drought. The grasshoppers will fly in, flock there, and then lay all their eggs there, and then that's where they'll hatch out in the middle of your field. There's been many cases down in this area where the grasshoppers hatched in the middle of the field. They were watching the edge of the field, and then all of a sudden they were just cleaning off their field from the middle out. So you always want to be mindful of those things. Now, let's walk out over here, get off this ditch. Now, going back to your question about, you know, chickpeas, water, moisture, how well do they perform? Chickpeas don't do well without rain. Nothing does well without rain. Chickpeas actually like a fair amount of moisture as well. So, if it gets too dry, they'll actually just... You'll get the same as lentils. Like lentils, we combined like a 0.8 of a bushel last year. 0.8. That's a 0, then a point, then an 8. And we seed them at like a bushel and a half. So we didn't even get our seed back. Chickpeas, we didn't grow them last year. Didn't grow them the year before. At least I don't think we grew them the year before without checking. And they would probably have yielded 3 bushel, would have been my guess. Problem is, they would have yielded probably 3 bushel, and you probably still would have sprayed them 3 times, even last year in that drought. So they're not immune to disease, even just because it's dry. The only downside is you just won't get any yield, and you're still going to spray them. And it's very expensive to grow, because it's $20 an application of fungicide you're going to go over. And you might have to go over them 4 times average. We have been up to 8 times. So you do the math on that. You better hope that your chickpeas are going to yield you something and hopefully be worth something, because you're spending a lot of money per acre to grow them. And let's not talk about trying to keep them, like store them. All right, so let's take a look at some of this stuff. Here's a nice little plant. So for Astachyta, you want to make sure, you want to clean the leaves off. You go like this, you clean the dirt off the leaves. If you get a bit of a rain or something, it will sprinkle dirt on. And we're looking for like a little wee black spot like pepper. I'm going to zoom in here. If I can get steady enough. Okay. So, those look good. Those look good. You want to start down here. Right there. And we're going to zoom in on this little leaf. You cleaned it off. Zoom in. Oh, hold on. Right there. You see that little guy? There's one little speck there. Let's look at that one. I'm gonna pull that leaf right here. You want to look into the sun. Hold on here. Now I actually have to look into it. Look at it without you guys. Okay, that is a sign of Astachyta, okay? Right here, I'm going to try and zoom in. Hopefully the wind doesn't blow our leaf off. Hold on here. I'm going to try to focus on it. Zoom out a little bit. Focus. Okay, maybe it's not going to let me focus. Here we go. There, you guys can see it. No? Okay, hold on. Well, anyways, you guys can see that little stain, that little dot. Okay. Well, that's a sign of Astachyta. Okay. Typically, it will start down here first, down near the bottom, and then you keep cleaning, and you do the exact same thing. You zoom in on all these, and you're looking for a little spot. I know my phone isn't going to focus awesome for them. They're very small, very minute. You don't want to see them at the top. Here's some flowers, some buds. Oh, hold on, we'll try and get a different focus on here. There we go. This is budding. See those buds right there? Okay. So that's what we're looking for. Now, this is very, very mild. You know, if you have to look, that's actually a good thing. You want to be able to hunt and hunt and hunt and can't find nothing, okay? Out of all the chickpeas, I've already checked them all on our farm. This is the one field where we found one, okay? Now, that's no cause to panic yet, but we did find one. So we're mindful of that. Also remember, we sprayed this with a fungicide, I think it's been 13 days ago, and that's pretty common to have to do it every 14. If in really bad disease pressure, you would probably have to go every 7 to 10 days. Just back to back to back to back. It never freaking ends. But since we are drier, we are hoping to push our fungicide application. I would love to be able to go 2.5 weeks before the next application. But you gotta watch this stuff because it will just blow up. It'll just explode and infect your whole field with spores. Because it starts producing spores, and the wind carries it, infects your whole field. And it's very hard to, how should I say this? It's hard to bring a chickpea field back. It's way easier and far more cost effective to just spray it early with your fungicide and maintain good health than to try and stretch and be a little bit of a cheapskate and try and miss that last application, and then it kind of explodes, and then you deal with lesions. So once it gets off the leaves, once it gets off these leaves, then it will go down into the stems. And once it gets into the stems, this whole branch will fall off. And well, that's yield, right? Because this is actually going to produce flowers at some point, and pods are going to hang off this. And then once this starts podding, it's even more dangerous because the asticida will infect the pod, which then infects the seed, and it will turn the seed black and shrivel it right up, causing yield loss. And it will do that on massive scale, quick across the field. You might start with a couple lesions on some stems, and then before you know it, 50% of your pods are infected, and you lost half your yield in like 3 days. So it happens very quick under the right conditions. So you want to be mindful of that. You need to be scouting your chickpeas all the time. It typically takes like, I don't know, I would be watching them every 3 days. I'd be coming out here inspecting these suckers every 3 days. I think we got a little bit of chemical damage because we got some narrow leaves here on some plants. Okay, where is it here? Sure, now as soon as right here. Just like in the ditch. See these narrow leaves? See that? Narrow leaves, no leaves. That's not grasshopper damage, unfortunately. I wish it was. Because if it's grasshopper damage, I can spray for insecticide and take them out. That is chemical damage. Now you're probably asking yourself, well, Mike, how is that chemical damage, buddy? What did you spray out here? We haven't sprayed them for a herbicide, actually. We haven't. We've only sprayed them for... Oh, that's not true. We threw in a herbicide with our fungicide, which was Arrow, which is just a grassy, which is completely harmless, which is the reason why this grassy right here is turning yellow and dying. This is just volunteer, by the way, which is called grassy. I call it grassies. They're dying. Just like this one, it's dying. Okay, so that's what we sprayed for, grassies. You can't spray for broadleafs in your chickpeas. But we've been dealing with a lot of chemical carryover, and it's kind of bad news, you guys. I remember the whole BASF debacle with the Odyssey and all that fun stuff, and then they're like, yeah, we'll cover you, and then all of a sudden another bad year came and you already sprayed it, and they're like, no, we're not going to cover you, but meanwhile you already spent the money and sprayed it, and then they bailed on you with a nice written letter in the fall, even though they said that they were going to cover you in the spring. And yeah, anyways, so I don't think there's been a lot of research done on layering, chemical layering, which means same chemicals over a long period of time, even with crop rotations over a long period of time, because we have a lot of group 2 damage in our hard red spring wheat, which is actually supposed to be pretty dang good against it, on lentil stubble from 2 years ago. So it's supposed to be out, but again, not a lot of research has been done when you have 2 years with zero rain. And this was actually wheat last year. This was wheat. So we got some chemical damage. It could be from the herbicide that we put on the wheat. Unlikely. It could be. My guess would be is, without looking at my, because we got a few fields and I can't remember exactly what we put on here the year before without looking at it. Of course, I can't remember a phone number either. So could have been Odyssey out here. It could have been lentils prior to this hard red spring wheat last year. And of course, we probably would have used Odyssey on that year. That would have probably been in the first year of our drought, 2021. And it didn't go down anywhere. And these are not Clearfield resistant chickpeas. And I bet you it's that group 2 affecting these chickpeas. See, right here. That is chemical damage 101. Chemical damage 101. So now what, Mike? Really good question. I think that you might lose a little bit of yield. I think it's going to grow out of it, hopefully. It would grow out of it a lot better if we had some rain. This too. It's chemical damage, I'm sure of it. I've been wrong before, but that has the characteristics of, to my understanding, from what I can remember, group 2. I've actually tried spraying some group 2 on chickpeas, at a super duper light rate, try and knock out some stinkweed, and it hurt them. I knew it would hurt them, but I was just trying to see how tolerant they would be, and they weren't very tolerant. And those are the type of signs that I saw after the fact. If we could get some good rains here, drop an inch, maybe 2, it's going to help. It's going to kind of grow through it. It's still going to produce seed. But if we don't, well, it's still going to produce seed. But might not be to the potential that it could have been. So anyway, guys, I'm dragging this video on far too long. And we do have some Clearfield chickpeas in as well, which means that you can put that particular herbicide that we put on lentils on chickpeas. This just isn't the variety. Now, Mike, why didn't you put that variety on here? That variety is pretty new. It's hard to get, so we just got enough for seed for next year. But anyways, I'll catch you guys on the flip side. That's the end of the tour. Look at this. This is kochia, by the way. This is the weed that loves drought. Right on the road allowance. Anyways, I'll catch you guys later. Adios, amigos. I haven't talked for 15 minutes straight without a break in a long time. Kind of reminds me of the good old days when I do 20, 25 minutes without even a break. No, I don't want to go back that. Adios, guys.